Hi folks, how you doing? This is Iqbal with NVIDIA Daily Analysis. As you noticed, today was a relatively quiet day for NVIDIA. Let's take a look at NVIDIA stock price movement for today and try to make an assessment for rest of the week using technical charts, fundamentals, and other economic data. Now, let's get started. You see NVIDIA stock chart for today on your screen. Nvidia opened at 130.56. It made a high 131.39. It made a low 127.18 and it closed at 128.44. That is 0.62% down. So as you see, after today's open, Nvidia tried to go further down, but it could not get enough momentum to take it further down. So there was some upside and then again it went down. So today, Nvidia's movement mostly was directionless, and I guess today was a good buy opportunity for Nvidia because in last 5 days you see that Nvidia is still showing 1.53% down. So there is some chance for recovery tomorrow or day after tomorrow. And also, if we take a look, the major indices, all of them were positive today. Let's take a look S&P. So S&P is positive 0.28% today. Nasdaq is positive 0.40% and Dow Jones positive 0.53%. So all three major indices are positive today. So this tells that there is no risk for the downward momentum for overall market. I guess today's drop for Nvidia is part of the normal correction. So every now and then we see some correction and consolidation on Nvidia, and that makes sense to me. In last 1 month, Nvidia is still negative. Let's take a look. So some recovery is due for Nvidia, in my opinion. So last 6 months, Nvidia is still positive 127.81%. Now let's take a look forward PE for Nvidia, SMCI, Palantir, and AMD and try to make some assessment. I updated this table with the latest forward PE for Nvidia, Palantir, SMCI, and AMD in this table. Nvidia at this point is at 47.57. Still, it looks to me higher than the last 6 weeks of average. The last 6 weeks, 46.79. And Palantir at this point, 86.88, much higher than the last 6 weeks of average. And that is 76.44. So I'm not going to recommend Palantir at this point. SMCI forward P is 28.75 and also comparatively higher than the last 6 weeks of average. And that is 27.29. And AMD is at 51.82. This also looks to me comparatively higher than the last 6 weeks of average. That is 48.24. Compared with the all four stock, it looks to me that SMCI and Nvidia is positioned well to go further up. I did not buy more Nvidia stock today. As you remember, I showed you last week that I had bought Nvidia shares around 126 and 127. So I was waiting for Nvidia to go further down below 125 so I can place more buy because it does not make sense to me to buy Nvidia stock higher than my previous stock price. But I bought some SMCI stock today because it looked to me a better buy below 900. Let me show you. You see this chart? I bought some SMCI stock around 887. And at this point, SMCI is 904. So I'm in positive. But if you notice, SMCI made a big fluctuations today. Let's take a look. You see, SMCI opened at 940. It made a high 963. After making this high, it went down probably about 6 or 7%. So below 900 looked to me a better buy. The reason for this upside was this news that says that SMCI is going to be part of NASDAQ 100 inclusion. Now let's take a look weekly chart for Nvidia. On your screen, you see weekly candlestick chart for last 1 year. If you notice that last week we had a negative weekly closing, but before that, three consecutive positive weekly closing. If you remember last week when I showed you this chart, I had an opinion that probably after three consecutive positive weeks, we may see some negative weekly closing. So that's what we saw last week. So in this week, I'm hoping Nvidia to close positive by the end of this week. And if you take a look at SMCI, you see the similar behavior. Last week was a negative closing, but before that, two positive closing week. So this week, in my opinion, should be a positive closing week. Now let's take a look technical charts. You see 90-day hourly interval chart for Nvidia on your screen and also the Bollinger Bands. At this point, you see that Nvidia stock chart is going below the lower band of the Bollinger Bands. So this tells me that, there should be some recovery sometime tomorrow for Nvidia. And also you can notice that the gap between the upper band and the lower band is contracting. So that tells that upside momentum that we experienced on Nvidia sometime last week is no more on Nvidia at this point. It might come back anytime soon, but at this point we don't see that. One good thing we can notice that there was some downtrend here and here when Bollinger Bands was expanding, but that trend is also gone, right? So at this point, it looks like that Nvidia is on a consolidation mode since the Bollinger Band is contracting. It may be similar to this one, if you see here, and also similar to this one. But one difference is after having some upside, it contracted and then it went down. But in this time, this contraction is happening after the downward trend. So that's a difference. Now let's take a look MACD. If you see the MACD chart, you can notice the similar behavior. The MACD trend was down sometime last week. It started going up. At this point, it still is below zero line, but the momentum is very low. So there is no strong momentum for either side. So this tells me that there might be some recovery sometime tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Now let's take a look news regarding Nvidia. You see news regarding Nvidia on your screen. So the very first one we should take a look is this one that says that TD Hoven maintains buy on Nvidia, raises price target to 165. So we got one price target increase from one analyst. So another one that says Nvidia to remain AI industry's de facto standard, Goldman Sachs. So Goldman Sachs is also optimistic about Nvidia. So that's good. So now this one that says that Nvidia to rally more than 33%. Here are 10 top analyst forecasts for Friday. So let's click on this one. So now if you scroll down to Nvidia, says that Nvidia price target increase from 135 to 170. So another price target increase. So if you are a long-term investor for Nvidia, that might be a good one for you. That says that Nvidia could be worth nearly $50 trillion in a decade. So basically, they're trying to say, please hold Nvidia stock for next 10 years. I'm not sure we can hold it that long. One thing you need to pay attention for this week is TSMC. As you notice that TSMC earnings is due sometime on Wednesday, and probably I will make one video on TSMC and try to make an assessment for the price range for TSMC before earnings and after earnings. So this one also talks about TSMC that says that what's going on with Taiwan semi stock on Monday. So today TSMC was negative. Let's take a look. You see 1.13%. But I'm guessing they should be able to report a positive earning guidance, and also they should be able to beat the earnings. But it depends on what percentage they beat the earning and how good is the revenue guidance in the future. And that will also impact Nvidia stock price after the TSMC earnings. Now let's take a look other AI stocks. You see, the highest positive change today was on Palantir, that is 2.14%. So Palantir is making all-time high, that is 28.67. After that is Apple, 1.67% up, Avago, 0.80% up, Microsoft, 0.09% up, Nvidia, Amazon, AMD, SMCI, and SoundHound are negative today. The SoundHound, it makes sense that it dropped 9% today because you notice Friday and Thursday, SoundHound made a big jump, probably about 20% in just 2 or 3 days. And also regarding Amazon, I was waiting for Amazon to go below 190 so I can place some buy. But I was not lucky enough today. But based on my judgment and the experience, I think that Amazon should come below 190 before the earnings. Now let's take a look economic calendar for this week. So today there was not much data coming, but we had Mr. Powell's speech, and as I mentioned on Friday, he's not gonna say something depressing in his speech. So his speech was mixed, but he did not give any clue that if the interest rate is coming this quarter or not. But overall, he was positive. Tuesday, not much coming. Wednesday, nothing much. And Thursday, weekly initial jobless claim. And Friday, nothing much. A pretty quiet week. But regarding NVIDIA, we should pay attention to TSMC earnings and the revenue guidance on Wednesday. So that was all about NVIDIA analysis and assessment for this week. I hope you liked the video. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you more tomorrow. Take care.